Hey, welcome to Internet Roundup. I'm Chuck. That's Josh. We round up the internet.
Right.
Let's do it.
Let's.
How about that? No sidetrack.
None.
What'd you have for breakfast? Kidding.
I had some kashi. It was good. Kashi with almond milk.
So, what? Are you live on a commune? What's going on?
No, dude, I have to say it's good stuff. It's tasty.
Uh-huh.
It's been so many years since I've had a bowl of honeycombs or Captain Crunch or something like
Sure.
that.
That's garbage.
Now I'm like, this stuff tastes like Swedish.
Yeah.
Not Swedish, sweet-ish.
Yeah, I get you. So a little kashi, a little almond milk, a little agave nectar, and you're all set.
A little honey.
Some incense.
Remember there was honey on one of the pages? It was from putting a little bit on my kashi. No incense. You have to be a hippie to eat well, to eat like whole foods. I'm not a hippie.
All right. So both of these things that we picked out have to do with historic preservation in a way.
Yeah.
I just realized.
Yep.
The first one we'll cover is a shipwreck find. And I just picked this out because I just have always sort of been fascinated with shipwrecks.
Sure. Anything that spends time at the bottom of the sea and is brought back up is immediately fascinating.
It's gold.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily.
Very funny. So this is a Dutch shipwreck. Divers in the Wadden Sea off the Dutch island of Texel.
I'll bet that's not how you say either of those.
Texel? Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know how else you could pronounce it.
I don't either, but I'll bet the Dutch have a different way.
Yeah, it's probably like Tuchel.
Right.
You know? So what they found was, they found there's a lot of ships wrecked in that area, apparently.
Yeah, apparently it was a great place for trade, but a very dangerous place for ships because sudden storms would come up and just go, you're shipwrecked. And that was that.
That's right. And apparently the divers are generally pretty respectful, and they wait for the shipwreck to sort of unearth itself over the years.
Respectful or lazy?
I think it's kind of neat. Like instead of digging around,
Sure,
it's like wait and see what it will bear later on.
Well, very recently a shipwreck bore a dress and some other stuff, but this dress was really the highlight of the find.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. I mean, we'll throw the picture up here. I think part of why it's cool is that it's so well preserved. This thing is from the 17th century.
Yeah, it was under there for 400-something years.
That's amazing.
And it was wrapped up in a package as part of one of the ship passengers' wardrobes, right?
Yeah.
They found a bunch of other stuff, too, including like spices and some silver stuff and mementos and a Bible, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And just some really amazing things. But again, this dress, they make the point that the dress is in better shape than if it had been, above ground, above water.
Yeah.
Like in a closet for 400 years.
Yeah, it's weird. I did some articles when we used to write articles here on shipwrecks and, I guess, undersea archaeology. And it's always weird how some things fare worse and some things like are really well preserved.
Right.
Sometimes it gets corroded. Sometimes it ends up looking like that.
I think a lot of times it depends on how it's treated when it's brought up.
Well, that's a huge, huge deal.
You know, like if you bring up an artifact and you keep it in some of the seawater you found it in, it's probably going to survive until you get around to preserving it.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
If you just pull it out and expose it to oxygen and air, which is the opposite of what has kept it preserved, it just immediately goes.
Yeah, so clearly these divers didn't pull this thing up and try it on and say, "Look at me, I'm a fancy lady."
That was good, Chuck.
Thanks.
That was a good Dutchman.
There's a professor, Emmy de Groot of the University of Amsterdam, and she said, "This is the night watch of the costume world."
No one has any idea what she means.
That's a Rembrandt painting, very famous Rembrandt painting.
Right, but did they find it in a shipwreck or something like that?
I don't think so.
What's the comparison?
I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, I know it's a Rembrandt, but why would you compare that to that dress?
Yeah, I don't know. Call up Emmy de Groot.
She's like, that's the only other Dutch thing I know, even though I'm Dutch.
She says, I was in a hash bar at the time when I said that. And I meant
no comment.
I meant Night Watch the movie.
You're thinking of Nighthawks.
Oh, man.
Where Sylvester Stallone turns around.
Great Sylvester Stallone and Rutger Hauer movie.
So surprised.
And who was was it Carl Weathers?
No, you're thinking of Predator.
Billy D. Williams.
Was he in that one too?
Billy D. Williams and
I've
Sylvester
only seen like
Stallone.
the last 5 minutes of Nighthawks. I don't even know what it's about.
What?
Yeah.
Ugh, well, that changes everything.
Have you ever seen It's a Tom Selleck movie.
That was lulling me to sleep.
With
That
Gene Simmons.
drone.
It's in the future. There's little robots.
Oh, yeah. Dude.
That one.
I know exactly what you mean.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
But I equate those two because
I have an information machine right here.
they were about out at the same time. I want to say like Replicator or something like that.
Well, it's something
refers
like
to the
that.
Little robots.
We're literally just looking Runaway.
Runaway.
Yeah.
And I also think of what's that? I think it was
Looker with Albert Finney.
Looker, yes.
Dude, the same movie comes to mind for me. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it must have had like Runaway and then Looker on like Showtime for months or something, and we were both watching it.
That's weird. I just got chills.
Oh, really?
Rarely do we connect like that.
Looker. Man, I forgot about that movie.
All right, back on the Internet Roundup train. Let's talk about The House of a Pedophile.
Yeah, one of the most prolific, worst pedophiles ever. And there's, I mean, just being a pedophile is bad enough, but this guy he raped and molested 100 kids. Bad enough. But it gets even worse when you find out that he had access to these kids because he was a pediatrician. Yeah.
Horrifying story of Earl Bradley of
Lewis.
Yeah. He was convicted in 2011. He's a monster. And that's not what this is about, though. This is about the house that he lived in. They're in a bit of a pickle there in Lewis because, well, here's what happened. An anonymous donor in 2014 gifted the property, bought it, gifted it to a church.
Right.
Complete with money to fix it up and said, you guys sell this thing and make some dough for yourselves.
Yeah.
The church couldn't sell it. Yeah. They couldn't sell it because it's a house of horrors. And so they said, well, we'll tear it down then, which is what usually happens in these houses of horrors.
And the Historic Preservation Commission went, hold on.
Yeah.
That house is in the historic district, and we can't just go around tearing stuff down.
Yeah. It's really kind of a strange case. Yeah. They, the people that supported its demolition had, well, I guess the church had a laundry list of things that they presented, like it's not architecturally or aesthetically significant. It's not, I know it's in the historic district, but really nothing about this house is remarkable except for the awful things that happened here.
Yeah.
So tear it down.
Right.
And they said no.
Yeah, they said our hands are tied. But actually, if you look at the city's charter regarding tearing down buildings in the historic district, it says totally up to the Historic Preservation Commission.
Yeah.
So they're trying to pass the buck when really it's totally their decision, but they don't want to come out and say, no, we don't want to tear down a building in the historic district. And apparently it's not just these guys. This article from The Consumerist says that the city's actually divided.
Right.
Like on one hand, people are like, yes, we need to move forward, and this will help heal the community, just leveling this.
Yeah.
Other people are like, well, go tear down the hospital he practiced in, or tear down the sidewalks that he walked on.
Please, those people. You know? He breathed our air.
Right.
Let's put ourselves in a biodome and bring in new air. All right.
Oh, we've rounded the internet up?
We've rounded it up, complete with the bonus 80s sci-fi movie section.
Boom.
Is that what we'll call that segment?
Yeah. That's marketable.
Great. Well, we'll see you next week on Internet Roundup.